The elevator hummed as it climbed past the 19th floor. I stared at my reflection in the mirrored walls, adjusting the collar of my emerald blazer and smoothing a strand of hair along my temple. This was the 22nd floor of Apex Zenith Media, the crown jewel of Broad Street, Lagos. After 7 years of tireless effort, countless pitch decks, and one too many all-nighters, today marked my promotion to Senior Marketing Director. Not just a title, but a hard-earned crown in a city where competition is as thick as the humidity. The doors opened with a gentle chime, and suddenly applause erupted like a sudden downpour on a hot Lagos afternoon. Colleagues stood in a semicircle, clapping and cheering. "Congratulations, Director Riley!" The name echoed like drums during an AO festival. I smiled, my heart beating loud beneath my Ankara blouse. From the shy, wide-eyed intern I was at 25, to the confident 32-year-old woman with a glass-walled office in a penthouse flat in Victoria Island, this was the life I dreamed of. And by my side always had been Nathaniel, my husband, my calm in Lagos traffic, my light on dark days. We met on the 16th floor years ago in the company cafeteria. He had spilled his cappuccino on my mood board and had apologized so many times I couldn't stay annoyed. That coffee turned into lunch, then dinner, then whispered conversations and Uber rides and soft laughter on Banana Island nights. After a year, we got married in a quiet ceremony at Whispering Palms Resort, surrounded by friends, flowers, and saltwater air. Nathaniel was a corporate lawyer, the kind who remained composed even during Lagos power outages. He kissed me that morning before I left, like always, and sent a message just before the elevator dinged. "So proud of you. We celebrate tonight." Everything was perfect. Almost. That afternoon, just after the board meeting ended and I was basking in the soft warmth of the office sunlight, Tessa, my executive assistant, walked in. She was holding a slim stack of documents and a subtle smirk. "Here's the updated Q4 campaign draft, ma'am," she said, placing them neatly on my table. Then she paused, one of those pauses that signal gossip brewing just beneath the surface. "Oh, by the way," she added, voice lowered, "have you met the new legal consultant, Camilla Hart, just joined from the Cape Town office?" I looked up, mildly curious. "No, haven't had the pleasure." Tessa tilted her head and added with a spark in her eye, "She's unforgettable." I laughed lightly, brushing it off. I had no time for court or drama. Not today. Not with a promotion I'd bled for finally secured. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the framed certificate that read, "Senior Director Riley Westbrook, mounted just an hour ago." It should have felt triumphant, but for some reason there was a flicker of unrest beneath my joy, like a mosquito's buzz you can't quite catch. Later that evening, as the office began to thin out, I passed the 18th floor of the legal department's turf and noticed unfamiliar laughter echoing down the corridor. I didn't stop, but I noted the timing. Around the same hour, Nathaniel said he'd be staying late. He had sent a short message again. "Still at work, don't wait up." No kisses, no emojis, just full stop. I reminded myself it was probably nothing. Lagos law firms were relentless, and he often worked late. But that night, for the first time, I left a glass of wine untouched by my bedside. Equal. And when I dreamed, I saw glass walls cracking just slightly. The next morning, I arrived early, hoping the quiet would help me focus. I parked my car in the basement garage, removed my heels, and walked barefoot to the lobby like a woman carrying too much in her mind. I didn't know what exactly I was searching for, but instinct had become my second skin. At 7:42 a.m., just like the day before, a sleek white Lexus pulled into a spot 3 bays from mine. The door opened, and out stepped a woman with deliberate elegance. She wore a fitted indigo blazer, a silk blouse, and heels that clicked like punctuation marks against the concrete. Her skin was flawless, her braids tied in a low bun. I didn't need an introduction. This was Camilla Hart, the new legal consultant. She didn't hesitate. She walked into the building with the ease of someone who knew she was already a conversation. As she passed security, she waved casually at the barista. She belonged already. By 8:10 a.m., I was on the 21st floor balcony with my tea when I saw them. Camilla and Nathaniel walking side by side through the glass corridor near the legal wing. She was laughing, hand slightly brushing his arm. He leaned toward her, smiling. That smile. That exact one he used to reserve for our Sunday mornings. I told myself it could be harmless. A joke, a moment. But my gut, sharpened by years in boardrooms and back-channel politics, knew better. The smile wasn't just polite. It was familiar. That evening, as I sat through the quarterly strategy dinner at a rooftop restaurant in Ikoyi, Camilla walked in again, this time in a red dress that shimmered with every move. And my husband entered 5 minutes later. Separate arrivals, shared glances. My stomach tightened like an unanswered email. That night, Nathaniel came home around 10:45 p.m., loosening his tie with one hand and clutching a worn leather briefcase in the other. He looked tired. Not the kind of tired from stress, but the kind you carry when your mind is somewhere else. Strategy dinner ran long, he muttered, dropping his keys on the kitchen counter. I was already in my robe, seated with a glass of zobo, the scent of mint and hibiscus thick in the air. "Did you eat?" I asked gently, as if I hadn't watched him from across the rooftop, laughing too freely with a woman I'd never met before last week. "Yeah, grabbed a plate of yollof and grilled catfish at the venue," he replied, sliding onto the sofa. I nodded, smiling like it didn't bother me. I was good at pretending now. That night I watched him sleep. His breathing was calm even, but his phone, which once lay openly on the dresser, now lived under his pillow. Face down, always. The next afternoon, I met with Tessa again in the break room. She sipped her iced coffee while glancing around to make sure no one was within earshot. "You know Camilla, right?" she asked casually. "Word is she's been showing up to meetings she's not officially on the list for, always seated next to Nathaniel. No one says anything, but people notice." I kept my expression flat. "Maybe it's just cross-department work," I said. But even as I said it, I heard the hollowness in my voice. I went back to my office, shut the blinds, and sat in silence. It wasn't just the emails or the subtle meetings anymore. It was the look on his face when he spoke to her, the kind of glow I hadn't seen directed at me in months. And suddenly I realized I didn't need proof. I just needed a plan. By the end of that week, the whispers had grown louder. Not in words, but in glances, in those quiet, uncomfortable silences that followed after I walked into a room. Even the janitor on the 18th floor seemed to pause when I passed. I carried myself as usual, confident and composed, my outfit sharp, my tone warmer than ever. But inside, I was sharpening edges, collecting clues, building a quiet arsenal behind a smile no one could read. On Saturday, I met Jade, my best friend from university, at a quiet cafe in Yaba. Jade worked in compliance for a fintech firm, brilliant, cautious, and someone who never gave advice unless she meant it. "You don't look tired," she said, eyes squinting as I sipped my flat white. "You look wired, like you're pretending not to fall apart." I gave a soft laugh. "Maybe I'm just finally seeing things clearly." She leaned closer, lowering her voice. "Riley, someone like you doesn't get paranoid for nothing. Do you want to find out for sure?" From her purse, she slid a business card across the table. Okachukwu A, private security analyst, corporate and discreet investigations. He works quietly. He can pull office building logs, analyze badge entries, and even track if someone's accessing secure files they shouldn't. I stared at the card, heart thudding. I was a corporate strategist, not a woman who checked her husband's phone or followed hallway gossip. But something had changed. This wasn't about jealousy, it was about clarity. I nodded slowly and slipped the card into my handbag. That night I didn't cry. I didn't scroll through Nathaniel's texts or check his social media. I sat by the window watching the city lights blink from Ikoyi to the island and told myself, you can't catch a snake by stomping. You catch it by waiting until it slithers out on its own. Calm, and I was ready to wait. On Monday morning, the building air felt heavier. The security man at the entrance offered me his usual grin, but even that seemed unsure. I walked through Apex Zenith Media's glass doors, heels echoing off the polished tiles, holding my latte and the invisible knowledge that something was moving beneath the surface. Okachukwu, the security analyst Jade recommended, had sent a discreet message the night before. Logs collected confirmed multiple late-night stays in the same wing. Mostly on Thursdays. Also retrieved footage. Clean but not subtle. At noon, while reviewing a campaign pitch for a major mobile brand, I minimized the screen and opened a folder on my personal device. It was labeled Legal Meetings, Cross-Analysis. Inside, timestamped clips showed Nathaniel and Camilla entering the 21 State Floor boardroom after hours, alone. One video showed them laughing, Camilla's hand briefly brushing his lapel. It wasn't evidence of an affair, not yet. But in Lagos, where nothing stays hidden for long, it was enough to shift the balance of power. That evening, Nathaniel walked into the apartment with fried plantain in a takeout box and a smile too casual. "Figured you'd be too tired to cook," he said, setting it down. I smiled sweetly. "Thanks, love." I didn't ask where he'd been or why he was late. I simply watched. His movements, his tone, how his phone never left his pocket. He was careful now, which meant he was guilty and aware that I might know. After he went to bed, I sat in my home office. The city outside buzzed low with generators and Danfo horns. I created a private folder, encrypted, and started organizing every piece of data. Videos, meeting logs, a few odd emails from Camilla's inbox retrieved through a now-retired IT intern who owed me a favor. I wasn't preparing for revenge. I was preparing for clarity. 2 days later, an internal email landed in my inbox. Apex Zenith Annual Gala Eco Atlantic Pavilion, Friday, 7 p.m. Attendance mandatory for all senior staff. I leaned back in my chair, rereading the subject line. The annual gala wasn't just another work function. It was a night of glitter, networking, champagne, and quiet judgment. Everyone would be there: executives, media clients, investors. Reputations were made and sometimes unmade in rooms like that. I sipped from my chilled water bottle as a thought settled over me like Harmattan dust. If they show up together, they'll give me everything I need. Camilla and Nathaniel hadn't gone public, but something told me they were arrogant enough to reveal themselves under soft lights and Chardonnay. I texted Tessa, "Please confirm if Camilla Hart RSVP'd for the gala." Her reply came 5 minutes later. "Confirmed, attending with a guest, no name listed." I didn't need the name, I already knew. Friday night came with a calm breeze rolling off the water. I arrived at the venue in a floor-length gold gown with bronze earrings that shimmered under the chandeliers. My makeup was precise, my expression unreadable. As I entered the grand ballroom, whispers followed me like perfume. "That's Riley Westbrook, the new senior director, the one who just signed that MTEL deal." I nodded politely, smiled when necessary, and accepted a glass of champagne from a roaming waiter. And then, as if scripted, Nathaniel arrived, in a black tuxedo, arm in arm with Camilla Hart, her dress blood red, his hand too comfortably placed at her back. They entered laughing, ignoring the hush that fell as it passed. His eyes met mine for a heartbeat. He hesitated. I didn't. I smiled and raised my glass. As the night unfolded, the ballroom glistened with Lagos's elite. Jazz hummed beneath the low murmur of conversations and clinking glasses. But for me, the music faded. I watched them, Nathaniel and Camilla, as they made their rounds. Her laugh rang a bit too loud. His hand never strayed far from her waist. They weren't hiding anymore. Not really. Not when they knew I was watching. But what they didn't know was that Okechukwu had installed a discreet lens behind the chandelier just above the sponsor banners. A small, wide-angle camera approved for media capture, but used tonight for something more strategic. I had arranged for the footage to be streamed straight to a private cloud folder, just in case they slipped. And they did. At 8:52 p.m., just behind the floral arch near the investor booth, I watched Nathaniel lean in and kiss her. Brief, but real. His hand on her hip, her smile blooming after. Not staged for others, done in the moment, in front of a dozen witnesses, in front of cameras, in front of me. That was all I needed. Later that night, during the Leadership Recognition Awards, I was called to the stage to receive Strategic Excellence Lead for West Africa. I stepped up, accepted the glass plaque, and smiled. My speech was short, elegant, deliberate. In a company like ours, we champion not only innovation, but integrity. It is what we build campaigns on, partnerships with, and most importantly, relationships. Because sometimes, what's done in the light reveals what was once hidden in shadow. I paused, letting the words land like thunder on dry earth. The applause was loud, but the silence between Nathaniel and Camilla, now seated stiffly near the back, was louder. And that's when I knew they'd just handed me everything I needed, publicly. The Monday after the gala, Lagos moved as it always did, chaotic, bright, indifferent. But within the glass walls of Apex Zenith Media, something was shifting. The hallways felt quieter. People spoke in low tones. Eye contact lingered longer. I walked into the office precisely at 7:59 a.m., dressed in a crisp white blazer, heels clicking with a rhythm that sounded a lot like preparation. On my desk sat the same files from last week, but now beside them was a navy blue folder stamped with Natalie Ashford Associates, my divorce attorney's logo. Over the weekend, Natalie and I finalized the plan. We reviewed every piece of evidence, emails, meeting logs, building entry records, and most importantly, video footage from the gala, all neatly tagged and encrypted. But the crown jewel, the marriage contract Nathaniel insisted on 3 years ago, which he arrogantly assumed protected him. Clause 17.4 stated, in the event of extramarital conduct causing professional or reputational harm, Party A forfeits all asset protections and settlements. His own signature beneath it. I opened my laptop, fingers steady, and drafted 3 emails. The first went to Human Resources, subject line professional misconduct in the legal department. Attached were video clips, badge logs, and a timeline of unethical conduct. The second to the Apex Board of Directors, formal complaint of reputational harm by a senior executive and legal consultant. No emotion, just data. The third to Nathaniel's law firm, a confidential notice of breach of ethics, complete with timestamp proof. At 8:06 a.m., I clicked send all. By 8:20, HR had summoned both Nathaniel and Camilla to the 12th floor. By 9:10, a legal representative from his firm arrived, stone-faced and silent. I didn't say a word. I didn't have to. The battlefield was already laid out. And I was no longer defending. I was taking back everything. 3 weeks passed and the building had changed. Not the glass, not the marble, but the energy. Colleagues greeted me with a different kind of respect. Now not pity, not curiosity. Just quiet admiration. Camilla Hart was officially terminated after a closed-door ethics hearing. Word spread fast. Violation of corporate conduct standards. No further explanation was needed. Her desk was cleared in silence. She left without a goodbye, head bowed, sunglasses on. Nathaniel, once the firm's golden boy, was placed on indefinite leave from his law firm. But it didn't end there. Natalie had already forwarded the full evidence to the legal practitioners' disciplinary committee. By the time they began their internal inquiry, he was already halfway out the door. I didn't block his number. I didn't need to. His first message came a week later. I was wrong. Can we talk? The second, angrier. You destroyed everything. I didn't reply. I moved into a new apartment on Gerrard Road, high above the city noise with floor-to-ceiling windows and white curtains that danced when the breeze came in. I bought a velvet blue armchair and placed it by the window. In the evenings, I'd sit there with a glass of palm wine or tea, watching the sun set over the lagoon, no longer wondering where Nathaniel was, no longer waiting for anyone. One Friday, Jade came by with puff puff and pineapple juice. She walked into the living room, took one look around, and smiled. So this is what peace looks like? I laughed. This is what freedom tastes like. Before she left, I posted a photo of the view from my armchair on Instagram with the caption, "Living well isn't revenge, it's recovery." And it was true. I didn't win by fighting. I won by walking away with everything, especially myself, intact. The end. What did you think of glass walls in Lagos? Did Riley make the right choices? Could you have stayed calm and strategic in her place? Or would you have acted differently? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and follow for more bold African stories about love, power, and rising stronger. Your story might be next. Be next.